believe, I hope, because with technology, you never know. But I want to thank everybody who is joining us. I can already see that John was here super, super early. So hi, John from Washington. I hope you're okay. I know that there are a lot of fires where you are. So I hope that, your house is okay. And a couple of other people. Let us know in let us know in the chat if you can see us, because it says we are live, but I'm hearing from people that we might not be live. So we are excellent. I, I have my wife actually is the one checking the feed and letting us know that it's okay. I want to say hi also to Bob. I think Dawn, you know Bob.
I do know, Bob. How are you?
Excellent. We have people joining us. Laura from Rhode Island. Hi from Rhode Island, not very far from where I am. Yeah, we have a couple of people here tonight in the feed. And I think someone from Arizona, team from Arizona. Thank you for joining us from Arizona. Send us some nice and warm weather in New Hampshire. We had 3 days of rain,
Only in
so
more warm weather.
No, no warm weather. It's
really.
100 degrees outside here right now.
We just
Well,
went under restrictions.
here is the deal. We can share. Just, send us a couple of degrees here, less humidity. We'll take it in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
which is very nice. So, well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. And I am so excited because today I am with Don Bolson and also Kyle Moon, who are two amazing photographers who specialize. Your specialty is Yellowstone. You do a lot of Yellowstone. You do a lot of wildlife. And so I thought, oh, okay, let's do a Yellowstone special. And 2 days ago, I ordered a big explosion in Yellowstone to make it even more relevant. So it was quite impressive, that little explosion. I've been to Yellowstone a couple of times, and I'm always a little bit scared about this. So now I'm like, oh my God. But I know that you guys will reassure us. And that's why we're going on workshop with you, so we can be safe most of the time. Although, can we really know what geysers are going to do? I don't know. But I thought what we would do is I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit. Maybe we can start with Dawn. And then if there are any questions, just put them in the chat. I'll pull them up and we'll do some question answers during the live and also at the end. So feel free to put any question for Kyle and for Dawn under. So Dawn, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, who you are, what type of work you've been doing? Because I know you, but some people in the live might not.
So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And yes, we are, as I mentioned, it's just walked my dog and it's 100 degrees outside. So the thought of winter in Yellowstone is quite pleasant right now. I like the winter. I like the snow. So I do live in Colorado. I am about 45 minutes outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. And so I write for the newspaper in Estes Park. I guide in Rocky Mountain National Park, but I also guide for a couple of other companies, traveling all over the world, Peru and Belize. But yeah, winter's my favorite time. I like going up. I go to Churchill for polar bears and Yellowstone in winter and Minnesota for owls. And so yeah, stick me in the cold and I'm a happy person.
I'm going to have to ask you a couple of questions about the cold because that's a problem with me. So I'm very excited that you're going to be here to answer them. And Kyle, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, my name's Kyle Moon. I'm a photographer, wildlife photographer, and a naturalist guide. And so currently I'm based out of Gardner, Montana, right on the front lines of Yellowstone on the Northern Range. In the past 4 years, I've been guiding in Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park as a guide and photographer. So spent a lot of quality time in here. Prior to that, I've done a lot of work as a biologist where I'm from in Orlando, Florida. And then I moved out to Montana in 2017. So kind of stole my heart out here. And I said I was going to give it a year, but I never really looked back. So here we are in Yellowstone, and like I said, I got a background as a biologist, ecologist, and conservationist. But now my main focus is guiding and being a photography workshop leader.
And I see that actually Tim said, yeah, Yellowstone is on top of my bucket list for photo trips. I
It should,
mean,
for many.
right?
Definitely.
Is it what I don't know if you've seen that show from Ken Burns. He had a whole series on the national parks, and Yellowstone is it's such a special part, right? It's the first national park actually in the US, but also in the world, right? 1872, I
First
think.
national park.
Yeah.
You are
And
correct.
it is really a special place, I think, for a lot of American. But why is it a special place for you, and why is it one of your favorite place to go and guide and be a photography leader there? Any
Who, who
Kyle, you
knows?
can go ahead.
I'll go first. I mean, this is an easy one for me. There's no other place on the planet that has more geothermal features in Yellowstone than anywhere else in the world. There's other places like New Zealand, Chile, and Iceland that have geothermal features. But the fact is, more than half of the entire world's geothermal features lie right here in Yellowstone. That alone is one in itself, right? But yet here we are. And I had this moment 3 days ago when I was on tour with clients, and in the middle of summer in Lamar Valley, and we were sitting there, and there was a fresh carcass out in Lamar Valley, and there were some wolves eating on the carcass. And then I turned my scope a little bit to the east, and I look over there, and there are two grizzly bears in the flats grazing on some grasses, sedges, roots, tubers. And I go, I challenge you to tell me where in the world you can find wolves and grizzly bears in the same location. And I think that right there alone is special enough.
Oh, that's amazing. I bet you got some great photographs.
They were a little far away, but to still
Good
be able to see.
experience.
But where that provides other opportunities, right? We have phone scope footage, and these things are great tools to supplement your photos. So keep that in mind too.
So do you always, as a guide, you always carry a scope as well? Because you're right, like just seeing and hearing the wolf, it's just such a special, such a privilege, and something you will always remember. But that's also something that you have as a tool with you, the scope, and obviously you have all the material that you need for photography as well. But the scope is an essential part of your kit as well as a photographer.
Yeah, certainly. And just like wildlife viewing in general out here, a
Hmm.
lot of things aren't always right off the road, or always right
True.
there in front of you. So having a scope is really essential as far as guiding goes. Like I said, the cool thing about it is you could, there's all these devices that this is my phone scope
You
adapter.
do, yes.
It goes right on to my phone, my scope, and I can record video. And so this is a high powered magnification and get, pretty decent quality video that would, like I said, is great for supplementing photographs and so on. So
That's very true. Digitoscoping is something that's taking off. I feel like I've seen more and more people really enjoying the idea of using their digiscope and taking videos while they're photographing. So that's something that I'm super interested in, and I want to see more of your work, digiscoping as well.
oh yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Excellent. How about you, Don? Why Yellowstone?
Oh my gosh, kind of the same reason that Kyle's talking about. It's just the diversity up there is, I mean, here in Colorado, we have a lot of the same animals. I would say the only one we don't have are grizzly bears, but we don't have them in the concentration that Yellowstone has. And that's what makes it so different and so unique. And then on just such a vast landscape that has, the geothermal features, and it has these huge meadows. I mean, there's a reason they call it the Serengeti of North America. It's just an unbelievable place with such diversity and such volume of that diversity that every single day you're pretty much guaranteed to see something unique, something special, something really, memorable. And like Kyle said, sometimes not everything's really close, especially, it's a thing, this time of year when it gets hot, it can be harder to find things because they kind of, they retreat to the trees or they retreat to higher elevations. But, that's one of the things in the wintertime, especially if you have a really hard winter where there's really deep snow, a lot of those animals come in and use the roadways. So it's just a lot easier for them to navigate. So it gets to be, other than the bears, the bears aren't out in the wintertime, but the time of year that we go up there is the beginning of wolf mating season. It's the fox mating season. It's coyote mating season, and they're bobcat mating season. And they're all just kind of roaming around. And then you get them on this white landscape, so they're a little bit easier to spot. And yeah, no, there's something magical about it up there. And anytime, if somebody's never been up there, you go up on your first trip and you fall in love with it, and you will go back again and again and again. I'm kind of jealous. I mean, I love living in Colorado, but I am jealous that Kyle gets to live right in Gardner. I know my partner, that's where he wants to live, and if he was sitting here right now listening to this, he would be like, "Why are we not living right there? Why are we not?"
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
That's the right answer, so that less people start going to Yellowstone in the winter. Is that it?
The other thing that I want to add on what makes this place so special is the fact that, you can say you've been to Yellowstone, but I'm going to ask you the question. Most of the response I get is, "Oh yeah, we went in summer this year." It's like, cool. Have you gone in winter? Have you gone in spring? Have you gone in fall? And the reason why I ask these questions is because each season is truly like a different world. Our animals are in different places. They're moving in different places. There's different things going on where sometimes, you're in spring, you're focusing on babies, right? Baby animals. And then you move into fall. So you have summer, you got the bison rut. That's what's going on right now. And then there just so happens to be, some pretty active wolf activity with them taking down some bison right now. So that's kind of exciting. And then you go into fall and you're like, cool, now we're in the rut. We got elk, moose, these things that are, bugling out in the distance, beautiful landscapes. And then you got winter. And winter is just, it's a different world. I call it a winter wonderland. And one of my favorite parts about it too is that you get this sense of solitude. Winter is dead. Nobody is out there except us. And we're out there just, finding wildlife, taking advantage of these open roads, no crowds, out there looking for wildlife. And so, that's why Yellowstone is unique and special, where, you get huge crowds in the summer. Come winter, it's the opposite.
Definitely.
I'm going to show a few of your images, actually, Kyle. So do you
And
want to tell us?
While you're pulling those up, I was going to say, Kyle, you just reminded me, my very first trip to Yellowstone, which was, probably close to 20 years ago now. We actually camped in Norris Campground, where in the fall we were there right in the middle of elk rut, and it was, these cold, crisp mornings, and you just had elk bugling all around you as you. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I live in Colorado. I hear that frequently, but to be in the middle of it right there, it was, that was pretty special. And I've been back so many times since then.
Would you guys say that? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
No, you were just talking about elk bugling. I had one of my guides today or not guides, but park employees out by Yellowstone Lake. They told me today that they got their first bugle.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Early, probably young bull practicing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting there.
Wow.
But that's what happens. You start with the bison rut in August, and it is just boom, boom, boom all the way through. I mean, you literally every month you could talk about bison rut, and then you have pronghorn rut, and you have elk rut, deer rut, or elk rut and moose rut. And then you go into bighorn rut and deer rut. And then you have, the winter season, like I was mentioning before, with all the mating of the canines and the felines. Yeah. And then you're going into, then it's baby season. So then you have, owls are nesting, and you have the migrating birds coming through, and then you have baby fox and baby kite. I mean, it's just nonstop up there.
Do you feel like the wolf, because I've always been so fascinating with the wolf, so to photograph the wolf, you recommend winter. Is that a easier season to see them, and to see them because they're closer to the road than the other season? Is that if for someone who really it's going to be their first time, and they're really hoping to have an encounter with a wolf, is that what you would recommend for that, or?
So
I,
I'll jump
yeah,
in. Oh, sorry. I'll jump in real quick. One of the reasons that the winter's is a really good time to see wolves is that, one, you have a white landscape, so they're a little bit easier to spot out in the landscape. They blend in a little bit better, especially in the tall grasses. They can hide a little bit more as they move across the landscape. But the other thing is that wolves are designed to move and survive in winter. They have huge feet that have a lot of hair on them. They work like snowshoes, so they can navigate around a lot. Their top prey is elk that they tend to go after, and elk have a harder time getting through the snow in winter, so it can be a little bit more of a beneficial. It kind of sides in the wolf's favor for finding food in the wintertime.
And Kylie,
yeah.
do you
And
want to
then
add?
I'd like to yeah. I'll just piggyback on that too. Yeah, it's. I'm going to say this: there's proximity differences here. Okay, spring is a great time to see wolves. A lot of times you're seeing them, but they're not exactly photographable.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why wolves are best to photograph in the winter, and the reason being, especially this wolf that you see. If you go
The one
back,
I
actually,
had?
the wolf that was up right there, she's the yep, with the bison. She's the alpha female of the Wapiti Lake pack. The reason why wolves are best seen or best able to photograph during the winter is because this wolf pack, their territory overlaps with the interior part of Yellowstone. That is our territory for 3 days, or 2 days rather, on this workshop. And the reason why we get opportunities because they like to use the road. Okay. So the interior part of the park is closed to the public. The only way you can get in is if you book a tour, and we have our own private snow coach for this stuff. Now, these wolves are all about efficiency. They're not going to go trudge through the deep snow if they have a road that is packed down and plowed. So these wolves use the road, they're close there, and they have an opportunity to photograph these things. So to answer your question, it's like, certain seasons you can see them, okay? But I'd like to, talk about proximity. Winter is the best time, pretty much hands down, to get photographable opportunities of wolves. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
was. I mean, we should talk about that morning.
Yes.
Kyle and I were both out there.
We can do a whole YouTube series on this right here.
That was, I mean, you talk about, I mean, literally, we heard that every single person that was in the park was there at this opportunity where they had this bison, this wolf pack had this bison. It was, and we were the first ones on it. That was what was amazing. We were the first group to get there, and we happened to see wolves. There was a wolf sleeping in the road, and we're like, and it was slightly before, I don't know, maybe about a half hour before sunrise. So, in the wintertime, it's still kind of, it's kind of like a bluish color. It's still kind of dusky, and we're like, wow, there's a wolf sleeping in the road, and we're thinking that's going to be phenomenal. That is going to be, the top thing of the day.
We already won.
And we stopped. And we're like, oh my gosh, there's a second one. And then all of a sudden a third one comes out of the forest. And then we see one cross the river. And that was maybe about half an hour into this. We see that there's a bison, not only a wolf crossing the river, but there's a bison on the other side of the river. And then that's when we noticed there were actually wolves across the river too. And it just kind of evolved into this unbelievable experience where we watched. Well, we saw 12 wolves that day. The pack actually had 14 at the time. We saw 12 over the course of the whole day. We spent the whole day with them watching this dynamic story unfold between this wolf pack and this bison that was injured. We don't know exactly what happened to it, but it was injured on its back end. And just to watch how the pack worked together, how they kind of wore the bison down. I'll be honest, it wasn't easy to watch. There were times where it was really heartbreaking, but it is I mean, that's what nature is. That's the story of the cycle of life, especially in a place like Yellowstone.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
to survive the winter, right, and feed their group. But yeah, I heard the story from you. I heard it from Lee. I heard it from Kyle. I mean, what a special moment, and you spend the whole day there basically being able to photograph, and that's great because I think that you have to choose your tour guide and your company very well, because I know that some other company left, in the middle of the story. And what do you think? What's your approach when you are leading a tour?
Go ahead, Kyle.
You know,
I keep jumping in. Go
oh,
for it.
that's all right. So, I think we all have different approaches, right? Like I mentioned before, I am a Yellowstone guide. I spent the entire last winter as a snow coach guide. So working in the park on a daily basis, you get to learn these habits, these routines, and your subjects and how they behave, where they go, when they go, at what times, what landscapes are they utilizing, etc. So my kind of approach when I lead these workshops, is kind of utilizing my biologist background in trying to really pay attention and hone into what nature has to offer. I can share a story about our pine marten,
Sure.
which we'll get to that eventually. That was a really great story.
This one?
Um, or no, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to use my approach to talk about this picture and this story. We were sitting there in Cook City waiting in a bathroom. We're doing a bathroom stop at the visitor center. And I don't know if I went up to you, Dawn, or if I went up to Lee, but I was like, yo, these birds are going, they're losing it. They're losing it. Okay. And I'm like, there's
We knew
something. And
what we were looking
I knew there,
for.
what,
We knew what we were looking for. We knew they were in the
what's that?
area. We knew there were pine martens in the area.
Yeah, we specifically were going in this area to target this and foxes, and that's the thing is like we know where wildlife hang out. So we target these locations and try to find subjects to photograph. This was a targeted subject. And when I was sitting there and I knew of a road that led to a Forest Service access site. And I'm like, yo, Lee, after, we get our clients up and ready, we need to go just drive down there and go investigate and see what's going on. And we didn't even have time. There were still two people in the bathroom. And I'm sitting there on the main road of Cook City, okay, which if you guys have ever heard of Cook City, it's a town about a quarter mile. I like to call it a lawless Montana town. It's awesome. But nonetheless, I'm sitting there and I see this pine marten going through the freaking parking lot. And I was like, I just turned around. I had something in my hand. I dropped it. I grabbed my camera. I'm like, yo, there's a pine marten. I'm going to go track it down. And then it was chaos. Like we are all sitting here. Okay. How many people did we have? There was like a total of what?
And we had about 10 or
7, 8,
12. Yeah, maybe
yeah,
about 10
or
people.
10. Yeah. And we're sitting here trying to track down this pine marten. And then, we're in the town. And then inevitably what happened was a dog ended up running it up a tree. And then, so we sat there and we got up to the tree and we're like, yo, we're waiting this out. Like, you guys have no idea, like, what is behind you. You don't know what a pine marten is. We're waiting here until this thing comes down. And so for a long time, it was pretty high up in the tree. And then eventually it came to lower branches and we got these amazing photographs of this pine marten. So,
And
you asked me what go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it wasn't so much that the dog ran it up a tree, but somebody was actually coming back from a snowmobile trip and they had their house kind of behind this tree where the marten was sitting. And their dog just kind of kept following them back and forth. So as long as the dog was out, the marten wasn't going to come down. And I mean, he was unloading his truck, what seemed like for an hour. It just seemed like it was forever. And this marten just kind of sat in a tree. And that's why we got all these really cool photos of the marten yawning and in different directions. It started snowing at one point. So we have these photos of, falling snow, which was really pretty.
You actually sent me a few
yeah, absolutely.
Let me put some of your photos down as well. You have a couple of that's the one.
Yeah,
Here we go. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
And someone was actually asking, where exactly was the bison and wolf encounter?
That was along the Firehole River. So if
Mhm.
you were to go in through the west entrance, it is you go to the Madison Junction and you head south. And I think it was something like, I don't know, 7, 8 miles, south of
Yeah.
that junction along the
It
the
wasn't that
hole.
far into the
No.
park.
No.
Yeah, you just had started, right, the tour.
So you
Hmm.
used to get that picture. Oh
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
someone, what?
It was first thing in the morning, and like I said, we were the first ones through the gate, and yeah, we just happened to come up on these wolves, and it just unfolded to be this I don't want to say it's a once in a lifetime. I've seen other experiences like that. And Kyle, I'm sure because you're in the park so frequently, I'm sure you've seen similar things, but to actually watch it from beginning to end over the course of the 2 days was what was so special about that.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
made it really
absolutely.
unique.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
another
a
photo.
special event. That is an event that will be talked about for the next decade.
Hmm.
I mean,
We
it
were,
has
we
to,
were,
because you
we
were
were
so close to.
and yes, yes. And so, ideally, we were really close. We were accompanied by, park law enforcement
Mhm.
and park rangers. So they kind of, yes, on any other day, maybe they had the opportunity to shut it down, but due to the actual circumstances of what was going on, as you guys can see, we are photographing across the river. That's the Firehole River there. That was acted as a boundary. Granted, yes, wolves can go across the river even in winter. But because of that river, these wolves, if they don't have to cross the river, they're not really going to. And so and if you watched kind of that whole scene unfolded, the bison knew it too. The bison was standing in the water because it knew that the wolves weren't going to go in and kind of like mess with it. So nonetheless, yeah, I mean, we were able to get a little bit closer, but even with that, being said, you guys asked what lens did I use. I shoot Olympus, or OM Digital Solutions is actually what it's called now. I have the OM1, and then this is the 150 to 400. Um, what is it? The F4.5. It's the Mzukio Digital ED 150 to 400, and it has a built-in teleconverter. So this is what I was using to photograph that.
Did you use the building teleconverter for some of your shots with
For some
the
I did.
wolves?
For some of them I did. Other times I didn't have to. We were pretty close.
And how
And
about you, Don?
and I was using an 80 to 400 millimeter on a Nikon Z7 II, for most of these photos, just so I could have the flexibility of going wide to get some of those photos because
Mhm.
it was such a big group of wolves. One of my favorite types of photos is because my background in photography is a little bit more from a journalism standpoint, so I like to tell the story. So a lot of times that means I like to go a little bit wider, and having that 80 to 400, because we were pretty close to this to what was happening. Even at 400 millimeters, I was able to get, and there's still some cropping going on there, but I was able to get some pretty nice shots, pretty tight in. But it also gave me the flexibility to go wider if the whole pack was there. There was one time where towards the afternoon, as the bison was really kind of wearing down, the younger wolves. So that's what most of these are they weren't quite a year old yet. So they're big, but they have lots of energy. And they were the ones that were kind of, nipping at the bison, and they would kind of run around it. They were the ones that had all the energy, while the older wolves were actually sleeping up on the hill. It was kind of like the adults were like, yeah, you go take care of it, you go wear it down. But as soon as that bison started to show signs of being worn down, then the adults came down. And that was when we saw, at one point, we actually saw the alpha male come running down the hill, and all of these yearling pups, so not quite yearling pups, were like following dad around. And so to have the wider angle lens really allowed me to capture all of that activity. And, you know, and I know I did see a lot of photos where people had, you know, like their 800 millimeters and, you know, their teleconverters on it and, you know, they're getting in really close as well. But I think, you know, it was a story. That was definitely a day to tell the story.
Yeah.
And so, can you tell us a little bit more about what to expect when we go on a trip? Like you have a trip coming up with Wildside Nature Tours where you are gonna take people to Yellowstone. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? And I'm also gonna put it in the comment as well if people are interested. So, what can we expect? How long? Run us through like a day of photographing with you in Yellowstone.
So the Yellowstone trip is actually based in two locations. We spend the first half of the trip out of West Yellowstone. We stay in a hotel, a very comfortable, you know, brand name regular hotel. So it's convenient. We eat at regular, you know, at restaurants. It's not remote by any means, other than Yellowstone itself is remote. But staying in the town of West Yellowstone is that we have all the services that we want. We start, Kyle, I think we want to say we start at like 6:30 in the morning because the days are shorter in the winter. They're not crazy long days like you get in the summertime. So maybe
Yeah.
about 6:30 in the morning, we get out. We get picked up by our snow coach when we're in West Yellowstone, right at the hotel. We go out into the park. We're on the snow coach. We do tell everybody to bring, you know, food and water and, you know, anything that they want to have with them in the field because we are in the field all day. And then we usually finish up about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and come back into West Yellowstone where we change back at the hotel and then meet as a group for dinner. So over the course of the day, because you know we're out there to photograph wildlife, and you never know what the wildlife are going to do. But like Kyle said earlier, we know where to go to look for them. So there are places where we go to look for bobcats. There are places that we go to look for the wolves. There are places that we know to go to look for the pine martens. So we'll do that. And like we said, we do a few days on the snow coach, and that's a snow coach dedicated to our group. And then when we're finished out in West Yellowstone, we actually drive up to Gardner, stay at a hotel in Gardner. Same thing. It's a, you know, just a regular hotel. We have restaurants in town that we go out to. And then in the northern part of the park, you can actually drive a vehicle out. And we have a wild side van that we use. So we're all together in the van. And then we go into the park from there. So we go from Gardner all the way out to Cook City, and that goes through from Gardner through Mammoth Hot Springs out to Tower Junction, and then out into Lamar Valley all the way out to Cook City. So we do that for a few days as well, kind of driving that road, looking for carcasses, looking for, you know, packs that have certain areas, looking for things that will attract animals and will draw them into a particular area, and then we'll work those spots. Like this year we had 3 bull moose that still had antlers in January. That was really unusual too. It was like we
Yeah.
have no idea why they hadn't dropped their
Mild
antlers yet.
winter, you know,
Yeah.
mild winter. So like, you know, again, that's the thing. And you never know what you're going to get. Right. This was a very odd year this past year that still led to great opportunities, but odd year as in like, there was still a ton of bison in Lamar Valley. That
Hmm.
the weather was so mild that there were tons of bison in Lamar Valley. Usually they migrate out into Gardner, Montana, which is actually outside the park. But to also like piggyback kind of on what Don was saying, yeah. So we have 2 private days of snow coaches out of West Yellowstone, 3 full days out there on the northern range of Yellowstone. Like she was saying, basically from Gardner up to Mammoth and Mammoth to Lamar Valley and all the way up to Cook City. But I'd like to add that we have opportunities to photograph wildlife along our way. And so coming in from the airport, going down to West Yellowstone, you go through the Gallatin Valley, which is absolutely gorgeous. There's also possibilities to photograph bighorn sheep in that valley, get some beautiful landscapes. Birds of prey are also pretty big. We get a lot of migratory golden eagles, rough-legged hawks, bald eagles, it's possible to get a gyrfalcon. So there are other birds, other animals that we can capture on our way in transit to these locations. In fact, actually, one of our best spots for bighorn sheep is outside of Yellowstone National Park. And that is essentially a transit day, but we take advantage of that, you know?
Yeah, along the river that runs out of Gardner all the way through that valley there attracts a lot. And and there is, because that is a heavily trafficked road in the wintertime, just because of people living there. They drive between Livingston and Gardner. Unfortunately, do get a little bit of, there are some roadkill situations, and the golden eagles take advantage of that. The bald eagles take advantage of that. I know we had quite a few bald eagles along the river this year. We had that really great group of bighorn sheep that we were super close to. We had
Yeah.
that massive one that I heard was I think, Kyle, you were saying that was the largest bighorn ram in the area that year.
Yeah. I've been photographing him for like the past 3 years, and he's still there. But
Oh my God.
yeah,
That is really cool.
He's a big dude.
And so, how do you? That's actually a question from John, but also for me. I don't do well in the cold at all. My dream is to go to Yellowstone in the winter, but I don't know if physically I can do it. So, what tips do you have? John is asking is something really similar. How I know it can get really cold out there. So, how do you dress up for the occasion?
You want to tackle it? I'll piggyback.
I'm happy to. It's kind of the same thing even in Colorado in the winter too. It's layers are important. I think that's one of the biggest things, is that it can be very variable. There are certainly days where if it's sunny, you can start overheating, and you don't want to do that, especially when you have lots of layers on.
Mm-hmm.
But what I always recommend is I wear muck boots, so that the Arctic version of the muck boots, with a good pair of wool socks. You never want to wear too many socks. You don't want to cut the circulation off on your feet, because as soon as you do, your feet are going to get cold. So it actually is better to have a little bit of space in your boot, so that, not so much space because we don't want you to have blisters or anything, but you want to have and it basically becomes a pocket of air that gets heated by your own body warmth, to keep your feet warm. I always carry hand warmers with me. There are two different types. You can either use the disposable types, or you can use the electric ones. I do have both. But I always make sure that I have that for my group as well, because I do want to make sure that people are comfortable. We do have to keep in mind that we want to keep people not only comfortable, but we want to keep them safe too. But so muck boots, good pair of wool good pair of wool socks. I have pants that are fleece lined from Eddie Bauer that are their Guide Pro pants, and that's usually all I wear. I don't like to feel bulked up. But I have found that they're fleece lined pants. They're not waterproof, but they're really good water resistant pants. If it's going to be extremely cold, which it can get in Yellowstone, I have a pair of kind of like ski pants. I want to keep my clothing quiet. I don't want to wear real noisy clothing, like that nylon ski clothing. But these are actually ski pants that have it's a fabric that doesn't make a lot of noise, but they're basically a waterproof outer layer. And then I have a base layer. Some of the things from Patagonia are really good. The ones that I like are from Eddie Bauer. Just a base layer insulating shirt, and then a fleece. And then I do have a parka that I bought from, I want to say it's actually LL Bean of all places, that I've been really happy with. And I wear that even up in Churchill and Canada and Minnesota in the wintertime too. And that's been really good. I have found a hood with a piece of fur, and it's faux fur. I will not use the real fur, but faux fur around the hood can actually cut down on the wind, and it can cut down on like snow blowing in your face. That can help. And then I also have from Buff. Buff makes a polar fleece that you can buy off of Amazon in all kinds of patterns and colors. But it's just the regular neck buff that has a fleece lining on it, and that's really good to keep not only your neck warm, but you can pull it up over your nose to kind of keep your face warm too. And then the gloves that I have that is the one thing I have not found a really, really good pair of gloves or a system that I like. So what I have found is I have a pair of liner gloves from the Heat Company. And I love their liner gloves. They have like little rubber nubbies on them, and they're great for photography. And they actually have a pocket on the back where you can put in a hand warmer. And then my outer glove is actually just a good old fashioned thick fleece hunter's glove that has a pop top on it. So my skin is never exposed on my hands. So the liner gloves allow me to have the flexibility to still control everything on my camera. It has the little nubbies, so it has a little bit of grip on it. But my skin doesn't get exposed. And then when I'm not shooting, I just pop that top back over, and I keep a hand warmer in the glove so that can stay warm. Sometimes I'll throw some hand warmers in my pockets too, just to kind of give a little bit of extra warmth. The other thing that not only for dressing that's really important, but battery life is really a problem too. When you're out in the cold, batteries can get zapped really, really quick, your camera batteries. So a lot of times I'll keep those on the inside pockets of my jackets too to kind of help keep them warm. Oh,
Yeah,
and
I'm just
a hat too.
and the hat, yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
same. Like I cannot like muckluck. I swear by those boots. There are no boots like the muckluck. That's the only boots that are gonna keep you warm, in my opinion. After so many different things, but like you, gloves are so hard. I tried the Heat Company. I tried the Valet glove. I tried so many gloves, and I can't find anything that will work. I like the liners of the Heat Company. I think they work very well, but I tried their shelf, but I got the leather one, and they're too slippery. I feel like it doesn't work. So I don't understand why I want McCluck to make gloves for us, for photographers. I think that's it. Kyle, do you
And
have a? Oh, go ahead.
No, I
Go.
was going to say I have the outer shell gloves from the Heat Company, which do a phenomenal job of keeping your hands warm.
They
But
do?
I have found that for photography, I don't like where the zipper is. I don't like, to flip the top off. I don't like that it is a zipper. It's just an extra step to me versus just like I said, they're not expensive fleece gloves. I just go to Cabela's and buy a thick pair. I'm buying a thick pair.
Yeah.
And there are some other options out there that are waterproof. That's the one thing about fleece is that they can get wet. So I always carry in the wintertime, I always have 2 of everything when it comes to hats, neck warmers, socks, and gloves. I keep 2 of everything in my bag because you just don't know if it's going to, if you get out in the cold and something happens and you need to be out there longer than you expect, or if if any of your clothing gets, the external type clothing gets wet, you don't want to have wet gloves or hat on. So you want to be able to switch that out. So I do always make sure I have duplicates of everything with me.
I'd like to add a few things and just kind of give some pro tips regarding like winter photography. And you were alluding to some of those. I'll share a couple other brands. I use Corkers boots. They have a BOA technology. It's kind of like if you ever go snowboarding, it's like click on and then it tightens. No shoelaces. It's amazing. They create.
Mucklucks don't have shoelaces either, though.
Okay, right. These are easy. I have like big calves and like big feet, man. Like me getting a muckluck is a job. Okay, but I can slip into some corkers really nice and easy and just crank those things down. And they have detachable bottoms. So if you are on icy surfaces, you can put on little cleats. You can slap those
That's
off,
cool.
put on ones that are traction. Everything about this design is amazing. It's actually built for ice fishermen. So if you can only imagine, you think ice fishermen have their feet warm? I'm going to tell you. So I use those. They're great. And I like to personally, Don, you said it, layers, layers, layers. Okay. You want to be able, sometimes it gets hot. You might want to delayer, but here's what I want you guys to think about. Okay. Wear enough. When you think you have enough, put on another layer. The reason being is because when you have that subject that's right in front of your face, you might need to be out in the elements for longer than you think. The other thing about that is you're not moving, right? We might be stationary for a long time and your body isn't building that body heat. You're constantly losing it. So you want to make sure you have enough layers to be in one spot in the elements standing still. So keep that in mind. And then also too, just in the snow coach, when we're in a snow coach, when we're in a van, we're not running heat. Okay.
Mhm.
The reason being is because if we're running heat, you have all your camera equipment in there. The current environmental, like the air conditioning, the air temperature in your vehicle, as soon as you step outside, will fog up your lens. So we cannot run heat. That's not what we're trying to do. Because when you do have that wolf that comes across the road, and if you were running heat, you go to stand outside, guess what? You're not getting a shot.
Yeah.
So these
It'll
are things
take
to think.
about 20 to 30 minutes to defog a lens. And more
Yeah.
often than not, you don't have that much time when you see something on the road.
Right.
You see something on the road and it's going to be, the experience we had with these wolves was unusual in how long it lasted and how close it was to the road. Most situations, like these ducks, for example, those mergansers there that you were just showing, it's kind of the same thing. We had several groups of mergansers or these were golden eyes.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
these were golden eyes. And we had mergansers too, but so we
Mhm.
had different ducks. We had dippers and mergansers and golden eyes.
Front-door
That kind
swans,
of
that's a
flock.
big thing in the winter.
Swans, yep. But they move. I mean, they're moving along these rivers, so you don't have that time. So it's not us trying to be cruel to you, but no, we do not want the heat running. You'll get two different problems. One, you can have your lens can frost up when you go outside, especially in a place like Yellowstone where you have a lot of thermal activity and the humidity is high. That's why these bison get frosty. It's because there's a lot of humidity in the
Literally.
air. The other thing is that you do not want to photograph through heat waves. On a long lens, if you have a hood on when it's warm in a vehicle, that warm air actually gets trapped inside that hood, and you actually have to remove the hood, kind of wave it out to get that heat out of there. Otherwise, you're shooting through heat waves that you will not be able to get a sharp photo.
But then
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna put this plug in there. Those are all that stuff is irrelevant for you to know now. Don and I will take care of that for you guys when you guys do one of our tours. So, but these are things you need to be thinking about, right? You need to be thinking about what to prepare to come out here. Make sure you have enough clothing and stuff. Those little minute details, we'll take care of that. We just want to make sure that prepare you guys that when we go on tour, like guess what? Sorry, as much as we want to be warm, we're not running heat in the vehicle, and we're telling you that. So make sure you have enough, gear, more or
The
less.
other the other thing too that's really important in the wintertime, I mentioned it earlier, was that you bring the food with you. Bring more food with you than you think you need, because those calories, if you keep putting those calories in, it allows your body to have the energy it needs to burn off so that you don't get cold. That's also another way to kind of help keep you warm. Thermos is full of, you really, a hot drink. There aren't a ton of bathrooms out there, but there's a lot of forest. So, but you want to have the hot drinks in a thermos. You want to have high energy snacks that keep you going. Those types of things can really help as well, not in addition to the clothing.
That's true. And John was asking what kind of boots, but Kyle, if you want, maybe after you can send me the link of the boots, and I can put them out there. Or if you want to put that in the chat as well, feel free to do that. Finding good clothing is just so important, because as you said, the moment is here. You want to be ready, and your body has to be ready. Your camera is probably going to be ready more than you are, but in those conditions, that's important to be prepare physically for that. And Laura actually has a question
I have
about food. Oh yeah, go
one
ahead.
more
Go.
question before we get to photographing geysers. I have one more kind of little pro hack that I use for wintertime. So the foam pads for gardeners, they're kind of like rectangular foam pads that gardeners use to kneel on. I actually keep those in my vehicle, and I have them with me when I come up to Yellowstone that I can bring out for the group. If you stand on those, it adds a layer, an inch to 2 inches of foam between the bottom of your feet and the top of the snow. And that's another way to just insulate your feet from the cold of the snow. It can kind of help extend your time out there. Like Kyle was saying, there are certain situations where we're just going to stay. If something's really good happening, just standing on something like that or sitting on it on top of the snow can give you maybe another 30 or 40, 60 minutes. And that could be the make or break deal on getting the shot versus retreating back to the bus.
Yeah,
Nice,
like
true.
me, I wear bibs. I wear snow bibs. It's not more than snow bibs. I wear ice fishing bibs. The reason why I do that, it has built-in knee pads. And if you ever see me photograph, I'm out there rolling in the stuff. Um, quite literally. I'm out there. I was trying to get that eye
We
level
both
perspective.
are.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, we
and
both,
we're gonna get
yeah.
you on the ground too. If you need help getting picked up, we'll pick you up. But we're gonna make sure you come away with some good shots. But yeah, I wear bibs. I like it. It kind of keeps. And another pro tip: try to get things that have cufflinks. It traps your body heat. Okay.
Yep.
Anytime you like have that escape, if they're just loose, that's why these things are designed. Both, and that comes good in the base layers, where you can kind of maintain that body heat. But a couple extra pointers. That's all.
That's true. And so let's talk a little bit about photographing geysers, because we talk a lot about photographing animals. We talk a little bit about landscape as well. But how do you approach that subject? Do you do night photography with the geyser? Do you have special equipment that you recommend for the geysers?
So the one thing I'll add about geysers, so in the wintertime, some of the best spots for geysers are going to be on those snow coach tours. And unfortunately, you can't get out there at night. The park doesn't allow, you have to be, there's a window of time that the park's allowing those snow coaches to be in the park. So photographing the geysers at night in the wintertime is a little bit more of a challenge. You could do it in the summertime. There are some I would describe them as thermals on the northern route to do, but they're not going to be, from a night perspective.
There's no
Yeah,
guys
they're not.
in range. The only
No,
guys.
there's just some.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah, there's no geysers there, but there are some thermal areas, I'll say, where the ground kind of stays warm. You could go up to Mammoth Hot Springs, and there's some flowing water, that kind of thing, with the terraces up there. But photographing geysers, one of the things that I love to do is get a little bit of a slower shutter speed and really kind of show that movement. And that takes, depending upon what geyser you're photographing and how much water is going up through it, will depend on how slow of a shutter you use to get the effect you want. The other thing, and Kyle does a lot of this, are use video. I mean, that's, to kind of see that explosion happening, as it builds up and you hear it and you see the steam. And then you can do, either a slow motion video or a time lapse video to kind of give it a little bit of a creative perspective.
The other thing that I'll add to that too, what I really like to do, as far as photographing geysers and different fumaroles and things, I love backlit shots on this. When you take a backlit shot of a geyser that has just gone off, all that steam is just accentuated. It really pops, and then you turn that black and white in Lightroom, they look amazing. Personally, that's kind of my taste. And yes, we have opportunities. I know we talk a lot about wildlife. I think between Don and I, we're like both big wildlife nuts. But yes, there's plenty of opportunities for landscapes. And we will have those opportunities as well. There's a famous spot off like Tunnel Creek, where you have these bobby sock trees and stuff. It's a shot everyone we always love to replicate. But, we go out there with a different mindset, try to get more of an original photo. We've all seen the same photo. You go out there and try to create your own. With that behind there's all kinds of geothermal features in there. You get the right lighting condition. You get the fog that settles in. These make very dramatic images. And so these are all opportunities that we can have. Those are more so on our West Yellowstone days with the snow coaches. But yeah, there's different ways you can take an approach to photographing geysers. It just depends on kind of what you want to highlight. And the good thing is, some geysers have a schedule. So guess what? We can go out there and time it, right? Other ones, they do not. If we get to see it, we're lucky. If not, you know what? We move on. So
That's true. And
Yeah, one of the things when you were talking about backlighting, Kyle, one of the things that happens in the wintertime in particular is that if you get the backlighting between from the steam or even just a little bit of a light snow, because sometimes the temperature can be so cold that you actually, any moisture that's in the air crystallizes almost
Diamond dust.
instantaneously. And you get, yes, you get this when you get the light behind it. So early morning, late afternoon, when the light's kind of hitting behind it, it actually creates what's referred to as diamond dust, and it creates this like golden shimmery, snow falling through a scene, and that can be really pretty. Whether you go in really tight and just photograph that, or you go a little bit wider and catch it maybe in a forest scene, or like Kyle said, down by the bobby socks, or with an animal, a bison maybe standing in it. There was a photo that I had, you had it up at one point, Emily, where it was the bison out in Lamar Valley with the fog and the frost. One of the things that we had this year, because it was a little bit warmer than is typical for Yellowstone in the wintertime, is that we actually had a lot of fog this year, because the snow was, there was snow falling, but or especially in the morning, as as that moisture kind of settles in the valleys overnight, you get this really interesting fog in the morning. And like I said earlier, I love
Mhm.
wildlife in the landscape. To me, I love to show that big, massive landscape and give some scale to what we're seeing out there. And that's kind of what this was with this particular bison that was standing out in Lamar Valley with the fog rolling through. So, combining those types of scenarios, and that's one thing that geysers work really well for.
And same thing, that first approach going into Madison Valley with the Madison River, you're gonna get that fog just about every morning. And with that too, when it clears up, and if you got one of those pink sky mornings, you'll get that reflection off of the river. And then you have fog, and then you have the sun coming through the fog. It's an awesome scene. Um, it doesn't always happen, but when the stars align, you have an opportunity to get an amazing photograph. And then sometimes too, you can go up into the coniferous trees. That sunlight is just peeking through the trees with the fog, and you'll have these rays that are, again, accentuated through the trees. They're really fun to photograph, and that's, we're here to help you with that kind of stuff. If you don't know how to shoot that, we'll that's what we're here for. And anytime we're on tour, that's another thing. Going back to like, what's your approach on it? My approach is to take it day by day. You never know what you're gonna get. I always say never pass up a good photograph. People come out here on tour all the time and they're like, I want bears and wolves. I'm like, cool, me too. But the reality is, if I see something good, we're gonna take that shot. And I think Donald can, corroborate that with me. If we see something good, it might be a bison, but if it's in the right light, if it's in the right conditions, guess what? We're gonna spend some time with it, unless we absolutely have a lead that's like, all right, we're booking it straight to Hayden Valley because we know there's a carcass, and I'm sure in the Wapiti pack has been out there. We're going straight there. Never pass a good photograph.
And that's the thing about
Sometimes,
hiring, you too, hiring professionals, people who know the park, because you have all those connections. Like, if I go on my own, like I went to Yellowstone last summer, it was such a, I've never been to Yellowstone and not had good encounters, but it happened. And why? Because I don't know the park very well. I don't have the connection that you're having. And so that was my experience. But that's why if you're taking the trip of a lifetime, going with the right people is so important, in my opinion. So next time I'm going to Yellowstone, I'm hiring you too.
Let's go. It's an easy sell. You don't have to tell me twice to go out. So
Oh, and we have one person who said excited to see what animal I can find. That's their first time in September. Ooh, September. What would you recommend in September? September is a great time, right? Because all the animals are barking, started to bark up for the winter as well. So, and the colors. Oh,
you'll get a little taste. Go for the rut. That's what's happening.
elk rut.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing I say. No matter what it is, there's always something going on in Yellowstone. Depending on what season you're in, shoot what's in. We're in August. Don't come here with the mentality of getting bears and wolves. Most of our grizzly bears are 8 to 10,000 feet in the mountains right now. You're not going to get it. It depends. You can. I had two of them in Lamar Valley, but what's in right now? The bison rut. Shoot what's in. It tells your
Right.
story. Kind of like Dawn said. Like you went there in summer. It's a bison rut. You're going in the fall. You're looking at moose rut and elk rut. I always say shoot what's in. It kind
Pronghorn too.
of yeah,
Pronghorn can
pronghorn.
be fun in September. You
Yeah.
get those bucks chasing those does around there, and you have the fastest
Notes.
land animal trying to chase after the girl he wants to have a baby with. He has one thing on his mind, and it can be fun to watch. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
And also don't pass up like opportunity like this one, that's, I don't know, those guys are so amazing. They're so that dark, that blue tone that they get as well. That's one of your photo, Kyle. I love those guys. They're so fun to photograph. So yes, we all want, the bison, the bears, but they're all those small animals that also make for some great photos. I photographed dragonflies too, and I had a blast by the geysers as well. It was really fun.
Yeah, and real quick, like on this, there's a couple things going on here. One, this is black and white, but you were totally right. They kind of have they overall have dark tones, and then they kind of have this like bluish tint to it, to their actual feathers, right? It is somewhat bluish iridescence. But this is black and white, and this is what we call a high key shot. So I actually took the outside. Naturally, it was kind of high key, but I really kind of blew out the outside to really make it black and white. But you're totally right. Do not discount some of these subjects that are right in front of your face. Like this bird right here was in a pullout, just hanging out. And you just sit there, lay with it, get comfortable with it. It'll sit there, beep bop around, and just take some photos. They have this really cool nictitating membrane that actually is blue. So it's another eyelid. When you can take that. I don't know if we have any Game of Thrones fans out here, but you ever watch that show, you probably know what we're talking about, where they kind of like close the eyes and they're like in this controlling something. Nonetheless, it's a really cool subject. I love ravens. There's a lot of birds out there too that are worth photographing in the wintertime. So this is one of many. But this is one, like you said, they're everywhere in the park. People will drive right by them like it's nothing. You have a very easy opportunity to create something awesome.
That's true. Plus, they're probably going to tell you if there is, another subject that you really want to photograph. Just follow those guys. They are they're always looking for a kill. They're always, going and bothering other animals. So I find that very often when I'm looking for a subject, just okay, where do I hear those guys, and I might find something. In my experience.
That is true. Yeah. So yeah, birds like ravens, they can see carcasses because obviously they're flying higher, so they can see carcasses. They cannot get into the meat though that they want to eat on their own. They have to. So it's a symbiotic relationship with other animals. So what they do is they then call in the coyotes, the wolves, the other animals that have the strength to tear through either the skin or different things so that they can get to the meat, and then they take advantage of that. So they work together. Wolves know that ravens will call out. The ravens know that if they call out, the wolves will come in to help them. So
yeah, there is a great book, 10 birds. I can't remember the title now. 10 birds that are very important to the world or something like that. I'll find it, and one chapter is on the raven, and it's really fantastic. Those guys are quite clever, and they're very interesting birds. So don't disregard them. I can see that John said
Emily,
I use. Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, Emily. John mentions, are you still on live? It is repeating itself.
I know that is strange. I don't know. We're supposed to be still live, and I usually plan for an hour, and we already went a little over, so maybe that's why. So maybe we
Well,
can.
it's a great conversation.
I know. I'm like,
Here all day.
I feel like we went through 2 or 3 questions that I had prepared. I have so many other questions for you guys because there's so much to talk about with you two and talking about Yellowstone. But I just wanted to thank you so much for accepting to come in and talk about your work and talk about your passion as a photographer and photographing Yellowstone. And what I'll do is usually a lot more people come in later on. Especially, I know a lot of people in Europe join us later, usually when we do those type of shows. So feel free to go and answer any question that you see on after the live. And someone say you are still live. Yay! Okay, that's good.
Very good.
And I posted a link to follow Dawn and Kyle on their Instagram account. And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the workshop. So I know that you are organizing a workshop in Yellowstone, but what other types of workshop are you offering?
Go ahead, Kyle.
So personally, I have some that are kind of in the works right now. I work currently with Yellowstone Wild based out of Gardner. And I can put a plug there. I'll give you a link or something like that, Emily, for
Yeah,
the summer.
actually,
And then during that outside period where Yellowstone is kind of slow, and then during the winter, I'm in the works of creating some, and I have some that I already have content for. So yeah, maybe if you can pull up some of the pictures from Freeze Out Lake.
oh
So
yes,
I'm
and
here. Oh
what I
yeah.
have right now is I want, because I know you have a newsletter. So if people scan this right now, they'll be able to follow you and also register for your newsletter.
Yeah, so this
No.
is my QR code. If you scan that, it'll take you to my website, my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube, all that stuff. And I would love for people to sign up for my newsletter. On my newsletter, it's a monthly newsletter, and basically what I got going on is like, cool, here's what I got this month, and I do like a couple paragraphs on like anything special that happened, and then I will follow up in that same newsletter like, here's what I have to look forward to next month, and then at the end of it, I kind of provide like what I have to offer as far as workshops and things like that. So there's a QR code for that. Some other workshops that I have in the works right now. I'm originally from Florida. I was a biologist in Florida. I worked for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, NEON, USGS. I work for all these organizations. I know Florida really well. And so there are some locations there around North Central Florida that I want to target. Here are some of my pictures. Forrester's Tern, that was a black skimmer. Prior to that, tricolored heron. Um, let's see what else. Let's get to one of them roseate spoonbills. Those are one of my favorite. There's a brown pelican. Um, but yeah, here's some of the pictures that you can capture there in Florida. And like I said, it'll be there in North Central Florida. So keep an eye out for that. I'll have more information. I just captured this one this past April. It was awesome.
Too cute.
Little one, and what ended up happening was an airplane flew over, and this curious little colt just looked up into the sky. So that was really awesome. Right place,
That's
right
a great
time.
shot. I really like it.
Yeah. So yeah, Florida, I'm going to be putting one together there. I don't have all the details on length or whatever, but like I said, stay in touch. Sign up for the newsletter. That's where you hear about that. And then if you can go over to the Freeze Out one, if you don't mind, Emily, Freeze Out Lake. And so I'm putting together another one. I have all the content. This one's probably going to be available pretty quickly. Freeze Out Lake is a really, really cool place in northern Montana. It is one of the biggest migratory events in Montana. And so that right there is what we're kind of targeting, snow geese. And so this is one of our locations as they're making their way north. And so this will be happening in late March. And so there's a massive lake out there, and these geese go back and forth between the different various ponds and then to these grain fields where they feed. So there are multiple different opportunities to catch them in flight. But what I absolutely love about this spot is all the short-eared owls that are here. So if you guys can see this photo here, and that one there, and that was a really difficult shot because that was an all manual shot. You guys can see how much obstruction there is in there. So there's different techniques with focus peaking and things like that that we can nail these shots, right? But this short ear owl was like caught up there, and it was so crazy. I don't know how I saw it, but I only saw its eyes, and I knew exactly what it was because look how camouflage that is. But those
It
eyes are so
is.
vibrant. And then so the big draw to this location here is we're talking anywhere between peak season 20 to 25,000 snow geese on the Rocky Mountain front. So you can have some backdrops if you want to go with a bigger photo. There's a golden eagle. Oh my God, that was actually on the way to there. I saw this thing on a post, and I was
Wow.
able to nail this shot. So again, on our way out there, there are opportunities to photograph these amazing birds. So you just got to have an eagle eye for that. You know what I mean? um, so we'll keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is Freeze Out Lake. Again, that is soon to be up on the Wildside Nature Tours website and via my newsletter. So sign up for my newsletter and you'll see what else I have to offer. And I have another trip. I will be going to Costa Rica in November. And so that is in the works. And I will be providing a workshop for Costa Rica in 2025.
Very nice.
So,
How
yep.
about you? How about you, Don?
Oof, I have at least one thing a month, it seems like. So from May to October, I do guide in Rocky Mountain National Park. So I do private tours in Rocky, including wildlife, landscape, or night photography tours. So I do those. Those are all custom private tours. But bigger workshops, I'll just kind of go through the calendar. So I'm going to the Galapagos. If anybody's interested in Galapagos, we still have a couple of spaces. That's August 31st to September 11th. That's going to be phenomenal. So we fly into Ecuador and then fly out to the Galapagos archipelago. So we spend about 12 days, 11 days going off to different islands and photographing all the different wildlife down there, the different reptiles, the giant tortoises, the birds that are down there. So that'll be an amazing trip. We've talked about snow and cold, and I love that stuff. I just bought my snorkeling gear. So we snorkel on this trip, and I got a wetsuit that just came in and snorkeling goggles and my underwater camera stuff. So the GoPro. So I am set and I am looking forward to that. But we do still have spaces available. Wildside is offering a special until July 30th for $1,000 off of that trip for each person. So that's a great deal if you're interested in doing that. And then September, with Wildside Nature Tours, I have a Rocky weekend with Ron Hayes, where that'll be targeting elk rut and fall colors. That's September 29th to October 2nd. And then I don't think I have anything actually this October, but next year in October, I will have a fall colors in Colorado trip with Nampa. That'll be a regional event for Nampa. I do have a Churchill trip next October. This year's already sold out. Churchill for polar bears with women in wildlife photography. That'll be in November of next year. I'm looking at putting together some other trips in the fall that'll be fall colors, maybe some bald eagle trips up in Alaska, as well as a Alaska tundra. I may do a gnome in fall as well. So I have lots of things that I'm thinking about for the fall. And then as we get into winter, there's the Yellowstone winter. So that's the one with Kyle and I. There's a Belize. So these are with Wildside. I have Belize, and that's to photograph birds and primates. I fell in love with the howler monkeys this year, so I'm really looking forward to going back and photographing them again. We do a trip to the Amazon River in Peru, where it's a boat-based trip, and we stay on the Amazon River, and we go out in the different tributaries of the Amazon and photograph birds and pink dolphins. And there's primates on that trip as well. We usually see 6 or 7 different species of primates. let's see, what else do I have come up? I did a Louisiana birds photography trip in April.
That
What else do I
waterfowl?
have? Oh, with what?
Is that waterfowl?
No, actually, so that'll be a lot the nesting birds. So the roseate spoonbills, great egrets. Yeah, I had some spots down there that are really good for some of those big wading birds. And then we go down to the beach when the least terns start showing up. So we do. So it's a nice combination of rookeries and beach, and then we have a boat-based version of that where we go out to an island. So we go out to a private island, and we actually have our own space where we don't have a lot of photographers around. And then you can get the migratory birds like the summer tanagers, um, the painted buntings,
Cypress
and all
trees.
those. What?
I said I miss my cypress trees with the Spanish moss and stuff.
Oh
Mm.
yeah. We found this year on that boat trip, we actually had several green herons nesting in those trees. Oh, it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So that's down in Louisiana. And then Nome in Alaska in June, and that's for muskox, the longest day of the year, which is a fun time to photograph. You literally can photograph sunrise to sunset, or I'm sorry, sunset to sunrise. The golden hour lasts about 4 hours. Sunrise and sunset happen at about the same time on the longest day of the year. It's a really unique experience. And we get nesting birds, muskox, including the babies, and then that unique time of year to photograph the landscapes out there. So I have a ton of stuff coming up. It's going to be a busy year. So I do tours with women in wildlife photography. And I have Glacier. We'll schedule another one 2026, 2025 sold out already, but we do a Glacier National Park tour. That'll be for landscapes and wildlife. So the next year should be pretty busy. There's still some tours that have spots available, and then 2026 I'm already scheduling things. I'm going to add another brown bear trip in next year as well. So Alaska brown bears. That's something that the last couple of years it's been a little bit tougher to get back up there. 2020 kind of threw a kink into some things, but I'm going to get back on a regular schedule with that lodge up there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Amazing. So plenty of opportunities for us to go and photograph with you and get all your knowledge. So thank you so much
Mhm.
again for accepting to come in live and giving us so much of your time. I'm really, really appreciative, and I know that all the people who tune in are as well in saying this is a great show. Thank you so much for all the great tips. The photos are beautiful. So thank you, Lynn, for joining us. And I need to have you guys back because I feel like I have many, many more questions to ask you.
We'll do it again.
So,
Oh, there's so much we could talk about. I mean, between
yes.
bird photography and, with Kyle's experience in Florida, my
Mhm.
experience down in Louisiana, and, both of ours, and some of the other, Central and South American countries. I mean, and bird photography is a whole separate beast of itself, right? It's a whole different skill set. And, one of the things that we really didn't talk about here, and maybe that's its own program, is the behavior aspect of understanding behavior and how that improves your wildlife photography. We talked a little bit about knowing where to go in Yellowstone in winter to improve the photographs, but understanding behavior and understanding how to anticipate what's going on
Mhm.
and how that can improve your wildlife. So I'll give that teaser,
It's
and I think
key.
we should probably do a
I agree.
chat about
I
that
think
too.
that is also best taught in person as well. So,
That's true.
with that being said, you want to learn that stuff, come on, join us.
We could do a little teaser and
Okay.
then they can go and put this in application, put this in the field, and then continue to learn. Because you're right, you have to
100%. It's all about anticipation,
Mhm.
reading animal behavior, and how. And this is what people say. How you approach wildlife. I'm gonna debunk that right now and say how you get ahead. I don't like
Mhm.
to approach wildlife at all.
No,
I like to
We don't want
anticipate
butt shots.
and find myself ahead. But that's my little teaser right there. Approaching
that's very
wildlife it doesn't sound good, you know.
That's very true. And I put Kyle and Dawn's workshop on the link as well, but I will put it in the video description as well for those of you who are interested. And I want to thank you again, Kyle and Dawn, so much for spending nearly an hour and a half with us and answering all our questions. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you in the field and have you back hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
good. No, thanks
absolutely.
for having us, Emily.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thanks
so
for
much,
having me.
and thank you everybody for joining. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.